Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the Yonkers Public Library with Sustainable Westchester to discuss how to read your Con Ed bill and how to save some monies. So without any further ado, I introduce you to Paul Pressendell and Dan, and they are going to give a great presentation and help us understand our bills. Thank you for both joining us tonight.
Thank you, Jackie. First, thank you in the Yonkers Public Library. This is our second week in a row working with you. Last week, we were talking about demystifying our energy choices and showing how we could take control of our local electricity grid. And this week, we're following up on a presentation with my colleague, Dan Welsh, the director of the Westchester Power Program, on how to read your bill. As residents may know, there is a community energy program that's now available to residents of Yonkers. It started off in March when the program has gone live. So your first meter read date after March, you will see the new rates available, the green supply option as well as the standard supply option. So we have presentations that are going on all the way until March 30th. So we're happy to be able to have partnered with the Yonkers Public Library to get the word out, and also are confident of a longstanding relationship and partnership between both of our organizations to make sure that we're able to let residents know what they can do to be energy smart and to be able to help address climate change at a local level. So Dan, I think the floor is yours.
Good to see you, Dan.
Great, good to be here. So as usual, I'll do the screen share thing. We'll get going. Yeah, so some of this will be a little overlap with last week, but I'll kind of bounce through it just because they always want to orient a little bit. And Sustainable Westchester, want to make sure people understand that we're a nonprofit. We're a shared service for all the municipalities in Westchester to help develop these energy and sustainability programs, and try to do so in a way that helps us make that transition in the most economically efficient way possible. We want to start off here, before we get to actually looking at the bill, I'm going to run through a couple of things which encircle that in terms of costs, because the reason people care these days is because the prices have taken a run, and some things that maybe we weren't paying too much attention to before. Now maybe it's something you want to think about, and you've seen some of these lists before, and actually the library has put out some good lists of just some tips about how you can take the edge off of what's going on in your bill. And a lot of them, just make that extra habit to switch the light off as you leave the room. That's obvious, right? Switching the old light bulbs out to LED bulbs. The new bulbs are like a third of the consumption of the old type of bulbs. Lowering the thermostat. It's funny. We go out in the summertime and it's 75 degrees out on the street, and you're like, this is a perfect day, and yet somehow we go into our buildings and maybe people are taking the air conditioner down to 68. You might find that you can get used to something a little higher than that, and or you could have a little fan. Sometimes it's just about air movement. On the laundry side of things, you'd be surprised, we automatically just flip everything on hot water. But for lightly soiled things, we're just out in the office all day or something, you can go with cold water easily, and that will cut your costs and bring also all of these things. As you do these things, you're also cutting your environmental footprint. If you've been out working in the garden and it's really soiled, yeah, using hot water is going to be a little bit more effective. You can even try using hot on the wash side and cold on the rinse side. So you can play with those things. Your refrigerator settings, sometimes they start to drift and they're a lot colder than they have to be. That doesn't really help you at all. So you can take a look at that and tweak it and make sure that you're not getting too cold on that or on the freezer. And simple things like the shades on your window do amazing things. And you can even go as far as switching out for lighter colored, more reflective ones in the summertime. Your hot water, sometimes if you have a hot water heater and you're finding that the temperature is too hot, I know that happens to us sometimes. And, if you think about it, you can, a lot of the new heaters these days, or the boilers these days, there's just a dial there. You can just dial it back a little bit more. And that makes a difference, because otherwise that really hot water is just sitting there in the pipes, in the system, and it's losing more energy in that counter, and you're spilling more of it down the drain. Your AC filters or your heating filters, think about it. If it gets clogged up, you've generated all this great cold air, and you're trying to push it out, and you're losing half of it because it's getting bogged up with the filters. So just taking the time to take care of those basic maintenance things. Again, fans versus air conditioners. In your shower, to reduce hot water usage. And most of the new ones that are installed these days are all water efficient. But if you have an old shower where the head has been there for years and years, it may be one of these high flow ones, you can save actual significant dollars by going to a low flow shower head. Again, back to the wash, use the appropriate load size. A lot of times we're just throwing stuff in and flipping it on, but it makes a difference how much water you're heating up. So, to dial that back when you have a smaller load. Again, with the dryer, the lint filter, same thing. You're trying to dry the clothes and drive that hot air, and half of it's getting sort of backed up by the lint. So, just that basic maintenance. If you're in a position to plant trees around where you are, if you have that option to be able to do that, that's the oldest form of cooling. It will pay back for you. And as I said, the library has also been a great source of information. I know there's a posting very recently on various ways like these and others to save money. And if you kind of make these things a habit and take care of all the individual things, it really starts to add up. There are some bigger things. If you have a home and you have a heating system with ducts, you want to make sure those ducts are functioning. When they're old and they're leaky, a lot of times the heat you're generating is just going off into a cavity in the wall somewhere, or drifting up into the attic or whatever. So it's really, there is a payback on those things. You get somebody in to check that. They, special tapes they use to seal these things all up, and your money's not just going down the drain. One step further would be to engage one of these HVAC contractors that actually does the energy audits, to look at the whole house and look at where you're losing energy. Maybe you've got areas where around the windows where there with no caulking, no sealing, missing insulation places. Sometimes your entire sill along the bottom of the house is missing insulation, and that's money just going out the door. And those fixes are generally have great returns. For every dollar you put in, a lot of times you'll get that dollar back in a year or 2 years. And then going past that, it's money in your pocket. So those are places that we like to point people to. Sometimes we're busy and we don't have time to really think about these things, but if you take the time, it'll have a nice impact on your costs. Then of course we're bringing programmatic options to help with those bills and those budgets. And the one thing that of course was mentioned at the top of the event here is that we've launched the Westchester Power Program in Yonkers, and that's a community energy program, which by leveraging our buying power and going out for fixed rates, it provides another option for people to sort of get off the roller coaster of the variable rates and the spikes that come with that. And just for an overview of that, the program has been a long lead up to it. We just went through this opt-out period for the eligible customers, and anyone who didn't opt out and again, is in that small customer class that, say, wasn't already enrolled in an ESCO or was some other outside of the eligible customer list. They're going to roll in on their meter read dates in March, and then start being a part of the program. They'll see the program rates and the supplier on their bill in April. It's a program that is overseen by the Public Service Commission, so it's not just something that we imagined entirely ourselves. It is a structure that's built into New York State law, and as of now, over 5 years, going on 6 years into the program, we're up to 29 out of the 45 municipalities in Westchester that are participating, and some 147,000 accounts, which is probably pushing about 40% of households in Westchester and climbing. We have a lot of interest from some new municipalities coming on in. Of course, the goal for us was always to try to increase the amount of renewable energy, clean renewable energy that the county is consuming, as opposed to fossil fuel-based energy. But we want to do that in the most competitive and efficient way possible, so that we're putting out competitive bids, we're running auctions to get the best price we can. It should be always noted, and we try to point this out, that this is for supply only, and we'll look a little bit more at that further down. In fact, as we sort of take the 10,000 foot level about what that means, we get into the question of supply versus the other major part of your bill, which is delivery. And so when we think about sort of where all the pieces fit together, the program is concerned with where that electricity comes from, where it's sourced from, which generators. We're going to pick the clean generators and purchase from them. Whereas on the delivery side, that's all the nuts and bolts of getting the electricity to you, the wires and the transformers and all the maintenance that has to be done. And so that's always going to be with Con Ed. And then ultimately, this is about getting you as a consumer clean energy at a very effective pricing structure. Again, just an overview. It's about clean energy, but note the parenthetic about the standard. Standard energy is a lower priced offering. So if you're really trying to find all the places in your budget that you can shave back and control, we're happy to help you move, if you're in the program, help you move to the standard supply. So you can call us, or you can do it on our website. And that is a lower priced option. It's at 8.7 cents now versus it's at 7.2, what is it, Paul? 7.2 some odd cents versus the 8.7 for the renewable product. So, you're shaving 1.5 points off. They mix up the two different aggregations. Again, these are fixed rates. So what happens is we're locked in until next year, November, at these rates, and they're not going to move. So, on the other hand, Con Ed is going up and down. It could go under our price, and it does do that at times, and it goes over. A lot of the market says it's moving in the upward direction these days, and so the rates serve as kind of an insurance policy as opposed to like guaranteed savings or something. But what's nice is it's consumer friendly. You can opt in or opt out at any time. So we're locked in. It's there. If some reason energy prices start going down everywhere, and Con Ed prices are going down, you can always opt out. So that's a very consumer friendly product in terms of your choice and your ability to move to the best place for you. And it's done in a way that provides you an option outside of sort of going yourself and trying to figure out, which private ESCO might have the right offering for you, and is the contract written in a way that's consumer friendly, and you're not going to get stuck in something. And ultimately, again, with all this as the backdrop, with the goal of trying to drive more clean energy and therefore help us get to a healthier environment. speaking again, all this context, we're going to put it, in the context of the bill, but we are talking about trying to do our best for your energy charges. And as we noted, your home is a big part of that. So we do also have programming which helps people to direct them to resources for trying to get at those home energy costs, specifically your heating costs. And a lot of that, you want to be working with qualified contractors who can help you find those wasted dollars. And ultimately, that's going to help both with your energy bills and lowering your carbon footprint, which we're always trying to do. And it helps move you away from fossil fuels and ultimately make for a more comfortable environment, which is actually what most people remark after they've gone through the process of tightening up their home and improving on their heating technologies and whatnot. So ultimately, making an effort around your home heating and your home cooling is about eliminating fossil fuels. But as I said, it's really also about indoor comfort, air quality, and that includes also, particulate matters that are generated by fossil fuel burning. And we know there's certainly a lot of people who are quite sensitive to that or have asthma issues. So that's all should be dialed into that. And again, looking for ways to reduce those costs. And through Sustainable Westchester is always happy to direct people to the state programs that are available. And these are some of the names of some of those. And they include programs that are specific to folks who are income qualified, and provide more subsidies and benefits. So, if you have any question about that, it's certainly worth checking into to see what the best support you can get for executing some of those programs is. And again, on the cost side, we are looking to find other ways for people to shave those energy costs. One of them is a program we call Grid Rewards. It's a demand response program, which simply means when the grid gets really stressed in the summer, and 3 or 4 times a year, and the Con Ed is looking everywhere for the last drop of electricity they can find, what they normally do is they flip on these peaker plants, which you probably heard of. They're the old ones that are sitting, shut off, and they're either coal-fired or oil-fired mostly these days. And they go on, they're very expensive to run, and they're very dirty. And they're typically in places where people have borne the brunt of the environmental degradation for years. So there's an environmental justice component too. So through this program, people can help Con Ed and help the utility reduce the load during those times and avoid turning on those plants. And you actually get paid to do that. So it's kind of a fun program. It's only available to residential customers in this past year and a half since we put this program together. It used to be just for commercial entities. And you can make anywhere from $50 to a few $100s, depending on what you do during those 3 or 4 3-hour or 4-hour periods during the year. And then there's solar opportunities as well. We have something called community solar, which is where you subscribe to a remote solar program. And through doing that, you can actually get a credit on your bill where you get a net discount. You don't have to have solar panels on your home. It doesn't matter who your actual energy supplier is. It's compatible with and completely separate from, and it's also helping to drive more renewable energy. Let's go back to that. And just to note, though, that it is kind of a project by project availability. They build a facility, it's 2 megawatts and worth enough capacity for 200 or 300 people to sign up. That gets signed up, and then we kind of wait for the next one. So in Con Ed right now, we're kind of waiting for new projects and working with developers to get those to come. So it's worth kind of keeping your eye out for that, because it's kind of like free money when it comes along. So now we're into the bill side of things. And so we're going to just go through the elements that are in the bill here. And try to identify those and understand what the impact of those are. And then also I want to emphasize, we don't have a big crowd here, that we can stop and answer questions at any time or at the end. So, the page one is obviously the summary page, and you're going to see the charges summarized for both the delivery and the supply that we just talked about. But when you are with Con Ed, those get combined into one charge. It's just called electricity charges on there. When you move over to a separate supplier, like our program, or if you signed up with an ESCO, you then have those two under new charges there. Those two charges then get separated, and there's one Con Ed electricity charges, and there's another supply charge. So that can confuse people because it looks like a new charge when it's not really so. Obviously, if you're on the looking for your account number, you're on the phone with somebody trying to talk about your account, what's going on, you need to know where to find that. It's located right at the top of the bill. Again, we just talked a little bit about the summary. If there's any credit or unpaid amount left from the last billing period, that shows up, and that sometimes can be confusing because it adds up in the total, and it maybe makes things look different than the current month would otherwise look. The graph is a great tool because a lot of times we'll get calls from people like, my bill's really high this month, like I don't get it. And sometimes it'll just very simply be that your consumption went up, and the graph is the easiest way to see that. So you see, say, those peaks on the left side of this graph, there was a significant jump up, and sometimes people don't realize for some reason, wintertime is a high use time. Maybe it gets dark earlier, so you're filtering the lights on earlier. Some people have electric heat or something. So generally there's a higher usage then, and people are maybe not thinking in those terms. They see that higher bill, but the first place they should look is really on that graph. And then if there's anything special going on that the utility wants you to know about, it's going to be in this message section here. Generally, most people don't take the time to read that message every month, but if there's funny things going on, it's worth taking a look to see what's going on with the utility. So, and then of course the total to pay is at the bottom of the bill here on the summary page. This is the page with kind of the real meat broken out in a sense. And again, we talked about the supply versus the delivery, and they're organizing that nicely for you on this page. And let's go ahead and look at what's the details that are on here. And obviously the top part of this is going to tell you the actual usage that's happening, and the usage that's applied to your delivery as well. And they're going to give you also a little bit of coaching about what these elements are on your bill in this little box down here. And also you're going to find the contact number on here. But let's look at some of the details in that supply section here, because this is, I think, what's of interest. As you look at the supply side, this is a bill where you're with Con Edison, and so you're going to see that there's this supply number here, and I think we have it pointed out. Well, first of all, let's go to the top of the bill, and it's going to tell you what your rate class is. Now, most everybody is likely to be an EL1. That's a residential class, but there are other classes out there. Sometimes there's even people who are living in what are residences now, but maybe at one time in the past was a business, and that class never got changed. So we have people who call us and wondering what's going on there, and we advise them they have to go to Con Ed and let them know that to get that changed back, because sometimes the commercial charges can be higher. And then of course you got the billing period here. So this represents your meter read cycle. And it's important because your rates are actually based on that cycle, in the sense that the rate changes from day to day. And then during the period you're being billed for, they're averaging that rate across that time. So what happens is, maybe down the street, your neighbor not too far away has a different cycle. They're averaging a different set of rates, and yet you both could be looking sort of at nominally your March bill, and that dollar per kilowatt or the cents per kilowatt charge would be different. It's usually because they're averaging at different days, and the rate was different on different days there. It's also important, the meter read dates are also important in the sense that if you make a change, you should understand it happens on the meter read date. So say I'm looking at this bill here, and maybe it's August 15th, and I call up, an ESCO, or I call up Sustainable Westchester, and I want to opt into Sustainable Westchester. On that day, your enrollment gets sent in. It takes a few days for it to happen, but then your actual flow or start in that new supply option is going to happen on the first day of the next billing period. So it'll be on September 8th of the next month. You don't start right in the middle of a period here. So it's good to be conscious of those dates. And if you were to submit that change of supply to, suppose you're opting out of Westchester Power or some program, and you send that in, but you do it on September 6th, it might be too close to that date that it won't happen, just in time for that next meter read period. It'll be the one after that. So those dates are worth being conscious of. Then of course there's the usage, and that's obviously the key to most of the billing charges. Not all. You'll see below, like the basic service charge is a fixed charge for everybody, but the usage, read off your meter is what drives most of the charges, and that'll be right up on the top here, and again indicate for what period that's for. Then there's the taxes. They're going to be popping up in different places on different lines in this bill, and actually, unfortunately, the way they present may be a little different if you're with an ESCO or you're with Con Ed, but in fact, they're the same. The same charges are always assessed. So you see this GRT is one of them. That's the gross receipts tax. Think of that as just another sales tax, frankly. They basically just take a percentage of whatever the total sale is, but it is split. It's being assessed on both the supply and the delivery. It's a tax that's assessed by villages and cities in Westchester and all over the state for that matter, and at different rates. And it's assessed on basically all utility supplies. So it's going to be on I think even on your cable bill, I believe. It can be on water if you have private water supply, and basically any type of utility supply. So it's always been there. There was actually some hubbub in the social medias about it, because when the Westchester Power letter went out talking about the program and showing you what the rates are, there was a little note like GRT is in addition to this, and people thought, oh, that's a new thing, and there was a lot of excitement about that. But in fact, it's always been there, and it's always there. And then there's also sales tax, as you can see, and that's county, and I think there's also a state component as well. let me see, is this the last, and the delivery charges? Okay, we've noted the difference between supply and delivery. You notice on the left side, under supply charges, then it's broken out. You see just the supply itself, which is basically the what they call the market supply charge. But then there's also a merchant function charge that's showing here. And if you switch to an ESCO supply, it actually gets simpler on that side. It just says the ESCO supply charge, and the merchant function drops out. And also there's a couple of pieces that are in the delivery that drop out because they're all packaged in the ESCO supply charge. But again, you're paying for the same thing. It's just different representations of it. So again, I guess this shot here is giving us a little bit of again, a peek at sort of what changes between a bill that was with Con Ed. Let's go back to that for a second. So here we are with Con Ed, and just again focusing on the left side there, you see the supply charge, the merchant function charge. When we go to a bill that's with another supplier, in our case it's Constellation for this particular contract, you'll see you don't see the merchant function charge anymore. You just see this customer charge. The sales tax is still there. And then you see the information about the supplier below. So that's the clue to you that you have a separate supplier. We often find when we launch the program in a new municipality, a lot of people haven't looked at their bill for years. And they finally look at it and they see, I've got ABC company here supplying us electricity. Like, how did that happen? And it may be that you signed up with them years ago and you can't even remember at this point because it's just been there forever. Or you know, the worst case scenario is like that company called you once and said, "Oh, hey, give me your Con Ed number because I just want to check what kind of prices are ready. Just let me check what's available." And they did, and they told you, and you were like, "Not sure. You know, I'll call you back if we're interested." And you never realized it, but they took that number and they actually signed you up for their program. So we've had again launches where we had a village trustees who are like, "Oh, I just found out I'm paying 13 cents a kilowatt hour with some company." So this is where you're going to look to see if you have a separate ESCO supplier as opposed to being with Con Edison. You know, or to look and confirm that you're in the community program. If you're in Yonkers and you're with the Westchester Power program, you're going to see Constellation New Energy there. And this is a bill from the rest of Con Ed, whose contract has been running now since last year, January, and will end in June. So you see the rate is lower than we're going to have in Yonkers, because that was a different time, a different place at 7.48 cents. You're going to see, again, if you're in the renewable program, you'll see Constellation. And if you're at the default renewable, it's going to show at about 8.7 cents there. And if you switch over to the standard, as I said, that's 7.22 and change there. But otherwise, it's going to look very much like this, you know. Again, sales tax, and the supplier information. And I think, you know, that is kind of the overview. I think you really, you don't need to get into every little line item, but know those two sections, know how to recognize if you have an ESCO, you know, because you can get some surprises there, and that's not a good thing. And also, you want to know about the two, because if you want to call and talk about your energy supply, you know, you're going to be asked like the questions, and that's where you want to look for that. So I'm going to just wrap here with some sort of a wrapper that we always like to talk about. Again, for us, this is about community engagement and talking to people about energy, about the impact of their energy on the environment, and also trying to be a useful source of information and a resource if you have questions, and to get the information around. And with information, you literally have then the power to be able to make your choices. So that goes for a lot of things in life. And you want to be able to have those information in hand. As you sort through this, then you do have the options. If you're currently not in the Westchester Power program, maybe you were with an ESCO. After having seen this, you look at your bill, you're with some other ESCO, it's higher. You may have been with them for years, and if you want to switch over, you can enroll in the Westchester Power program, and you can investigate some of these other options that we talked about here, or even just participate in the demand response program, try to save a few dollars there. So that's the overview. I'm happy to go sort of back to the bill if that's helpful, or people may have questions around that, or otherwise around the program, or about energy in general, or